In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of this meeting of the Atlantic County Board of Chosen Freeholders was provided in the following manner. Published in the Press of Atlantic City and mailed to the Current, the Daily Journal, the Hamilton Gazette, the Hamilton News, and has been posted on the bulletin boards in the county office building in Atlantic City, the Stillwater building in Northfield, and the county clerk's office in Mays Landing. If we could all please stand for an opening prayer and the pledge of allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks for the light of another day, for the work we have to do and the strength to do it. Guide us in thy light, uphold us by thy power, and sustain us with thy love. Amen.
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 Attention, salute. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, Madam Clerk.
Chairwoman Gatto, Freeholder Bertino is out of town and will not be here today.
Okay, thank you.
Bennett? Here. Bertino? Not here. Corsi?
He's here in spirit, but I'm present.
Days?
Here.
Fitzpatrick?
Here.
Ramika?
Here.
Kern?
Here.
Risley?
Here.
And Gatto.
Here. Okay, you've all had the opportunity to review the minutes from February 26, 2019. If there's no corrections, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes.
Move.
Second. Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that? Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Bennett?
Yes.
Corsi?
Yes.
Days?
Yes.
Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Ramika?
Yes.
Kern?
Yes.
Risley?
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. All right, we're going to start off with a couple presentations today. The first one we're going to start off with is a little bit off script. So I'm going to come down, and Mr. Ramika, I think as former chair, you might want to come
Whatever you wish.
join me on this one.
Don't fall off the chair.
I know. So we have a retirement upon us pretty soon. So Gare, you want to come on up? I know you think you're here for a very important meeting, but so Gare, I know you have been, first of all, such an asset to us since you came to us, and I know it's a little bit of a bittersweet decision, but you're going to go spend time with family, which is very important, and we're sad to see you go, but happy for the next chapter in your life.
Thank you.
And we appreciate everything, and we know you've been working so diligently, even on vacation, to make this transition as easy as possible for us, which is really over and above. So we appreciate you so much. You want to say anything else as our former chair?
No,
hired
but
there?
I could just say that your service is invaluable, and we thank you for everything you did, and we're sorry to see you go.
Thank you.
So please accept a certificate of recognition for your work from us, and just with sincere appreciation and happy retirement.
Thank you.
And we promise you we won't call you back.
Can we have a round of applause for Gary? Gary, did you want to add anything?
We spoke yesterday, yes. Gary's been a great asset to the county. We've worked our way through some tough situations recently, and Gary's been a trooper all the way through, and she spent a lot of time with Ms. Bell, and Regina, you know, is our next library director. So I think the two of them have done a great job together, and this transition should work very well. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Congrats again.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if that means you're free to go at all, but.
No, we have a couple resolutions
Yeah, I
you
know.
might have questions about.
Okay, next is our more formal presentation. We have Mr. Raymond Boyster here for the National Crime Victims' Rights Week. So as you're coming up, sir, I think I need to entertain a motion on the resolution related to this, number 193.
Move.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. So freeholder comments. Freeholder Bennett, did you want to?
Yes. So Mr. Royster contacted me in regards to this resolution, and I was very happy to sponsor it. We've had a number of different tragedies within our community, and I think we need to think about our victims as well as continue to lift up the families and provide them the resources that they need. And so I was happy to sponsor this, and he's going to come and tell us a little bit more about National Crime Victims' Rights Week and all of the programs that are going to go into that.
Okay. Any other freeholder comments on this resolution? Okay, you want to come up and give us some of your comments, sir? Thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you all. My name is Raymond Royce. I'm the coordinator for the Victim Witness Program, the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. So I'm tasked to supervise the unit that works with all the victims of all major crimes throughout the county, including but not limited to homicides, robberies, assaults, kidnapping, stalking, domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and all crimes against children. So we work with roughly 6,000 persons per year that come throughout the county that are affected by different crimes. My unit works directly with each individual victim and walks them through the entire criminal justice process. I supervise that unit as well as coordinate community events on behalf of the prosecutor and the Office of the Attorney General. So Crime Victims' Rights Week this year will be held from April 7th through the 13th. That week was developed by President Reagan several years ago to really highlight the adverse effects of how victims feel during their criminal justice experience. It's one thing to be victimized by a perpetrator. It's another thing to be victimized by the criminal justice system, by having to navigate that system and not really understand what's going on, what's happening next, why are there so many meetings, you know, what does arraignment mean, what's the first appearance, what happens after sentencing. All those different things, I have an advocate dedicated to work directly with the victim through that entire process, and that's all thanks to the efforts of our past presidents. So this week, this year, we're going to start off the week by having a town hall meeting that's going to address the citizens of this community directly, so they can really have opportunity to meet with the heads of their respective police departments, so they can understand all the community engagement and programs that are going to be held throughout, that are already going on and are going to be continued to go on throughout the course of the year. So on April 8th, we're going to be having our first forum that's going to have Chief Henry White, Chief of Atlantic City, Chief Sean Riggins of Pleasantville, Chief Donna Higby of, of Galloway, retired Judge James Jackson, as well as the Executive Director for the Victims of Crime Compensation Office, Ms. Louise Lester. Now, the VCCO, Victim Crime Compensation Office, works directly with each victim after they've been victimized to pay for funerals, other medical expenses, if they've been out of work or if they've been victimized in another way. We can assist, or that office assists directly to the victim, provides financial and other support directly to the victims. So it's very important to meet with all the heads of these respective departments, so they can provide this information directly to the public in one setting, to have everybody work in concert to talk about how much they mean to us as citizens, as neighbors, as friends. Any one of us can be a victim at any time, unfortunately. So that event is going to be held at Second Baptist Church on April the 8th at 6 o'clock. I will be moderating that program, so we're going to have an open forum so we can really address everyone in the community. All people are welcome. This event will be posted on the Atlantic County Prosecutor's website. I've provided a flyer, and I'll leave a couple other flyers here. If anyone has any questions, my information is on there. The proclamation that we have developed today will be presented and used at another event later that week on the Wednesday. We're going to be honoring not just victims, regular persons that have been victimized, but we're going to honor first responders who've been victimized while doing their work in our community by protecting us each and every day. Sometimes first responders end up being the victims themselves. Officer Josh Fidel, who was victimized in Atlantic City not too long ago, is a survivor. His family are survivors of a horrific crime. Him and his partner will be honored at the Atlantic County Justice Facility, well, not the courthouse, the Justice Complex. We're going to plant a tree. We've been granted permission to plant a tree to honor Josh and his partner on that day. We're going to have a program that morning at the courthouse to really honor the first responders, because they also can be victims as well. We want to recognize their efforts moving forward as well. Later that week, on Friday, we will have another program to address the immigrant population, because that's a whole different conversation. The immigrant population, unfortunately, is victimized in a completely different way, where they may feel that they don't have rights or the ability to speak to law enforcement because they fear that they may be victimized and not believed or treated differently because of their perceived immigrant status. The Office of the Attorney General has issued new directives that really change how law enforcement is forced to act and react with persons who are perceived to have immigrant status. Through the prosecutor's office, I am the lead person that handles all U and T visas. That's visas that are granted to persons who have been victimized. I look over those things that assist people who have been victimized by crime, who cooperate with law enforcement, who are not criminals themselves, to help them obtain a visa so they'll be able to stay in this country and continue to be contributing persons in this community. So those are our 3 events that we're going to be having this year for Crime Victims' Rights Weeks. Everyone is more than welcome to attend any of those events. The last event is going to be held at Our Lady Sea of the Star Church. We're going to speak primarily to the Hispanic and Latino population on that day to start off, but I will be speaking personally to all demographics and different races of people throughout the entire county, the Muslim community, the different Asian communities, the different European communities, African, Caribbean communities. I will be providing a very open forum to each one of those respective communities, so everyone has a very specific voice and opportunity to get this information firsthand per the directive of the Office of the Attorney General. So I'm one of the lead persons that do this throughout on behalf of the prosecutor, Damon Tyner. So I'm very happy and proud to be able to do that, to work with those persons, because they're our neighbors, they're our friends, they work with us, they play with our children, they work in the restaurants and the stores, and we see them up and down the street, we speak to them, and they deserve just as much respect as everyone else that we interact on a daily basis. So without taking up too much of your time already, I just wanted to give a brief overview of what we're going to be doing. Formal publications will be sent out by our PIO, Donna Weaver, in the next coming days, to really give an overview of everything that we're going to be doing.
Great. Thank you very much for all that information and for all that you do on behalf of our citizens. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I would like to suggest that if the board has no objection, that we add 2 whereases to the resolution. One, just kind of highlighting that we serve and support 6,000 people who are affected throughout the county annually. That was the number I think you mentioned. And then also that we will be highlighting this topic through the week's events and adding those events to, just from an awareness perspective locally. I think that would be good to add.
I'll make the necessary motion.
To amend the resolution.
I'll second.
Great. All right. Any other questions or comments on that resolution?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I'm somewhat aware of this program that you're putting. Is this also the program that the Attorney General will be attending?
Not this one. The attorney, during that week, the Attorney General obviously is tasked with going throughout the state. The Attorney General's Crime Victim Rights Week program is Friday the 12th in Trenton. So each county and community organizations put on their own different programs, but the Attorney General, unfortunately, will not be able to come to this one in Atlantic County.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I received a couple calls. I think some people was under the impression that he was attending the one at the Second Baptist Church, and I think that needs to be cleared up. I mean, not for you, but I think somebody was probably heard Attorney General's office, and so they figured keeps coming in, but,
No, the representative from the Attorney General's office will be Executive Director Louise Lester. So she'll be able to, I mean, she's not the Attorney General, but she is.
well, she don't look like you anyway.
Director, and she's, you know, she's the top of the top and a former prosecutor, so she'll be able to definitely provide his sentiments on behalf of his office and represent any of his concerns to our constituents here.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, can we have a roll call on that resolution, please?
Sure, amended.
As
As
amended.
amended?
Bennett,
Yes.
Corsi,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. All right, and I think, Ashley, you're gonna
Yes.
present something over there?
So we just wanted to take a formal stance and thank you and the prosecutor's office and all the first responders for what you do for all of Atlantic County. And without reading the whole thing, it says, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Atlantic recognizes and supports assistance to victims of crimes by and through community members, victim service providers, and criminal justice providers who are committed to improving responses to victims of crimes to help them find relevant assistance, support, justice, and peace. And be it further resolved that the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Atlantic declares the week of April 7th through the 13th, 2019 as National Crime Victims' Rights Week in Atlantic County.
Great, thank you.
Getting good at this.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us today, sir, and providing all that information. We appreciate it. And don't feel an obligation to stay. We have much more important work to do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where's the flyer?
Oh, yeah, fire.
Be an Indian give us some?
All right, as he's getting ready to give out the flyers, let's have our next presenter on deck, Mr. Rick Dovey from the Atlantic County Utilities Authority, to talk about our recycling program. I'm sure it's as amended.
Thank you,
All right, Rick.
Chairperson. Good to see everyone. My name's Rick Dovey. I'm from the ACUA. I was asked to come today and talk about the changes in our recycling program that we've begun implementing over the last few months and explain the reasons behind it. And as usual, I'm going to start with a little history lesson. So I've brought some props along. So a few of you have been around as long as I have, involved in all this. The mandatory recycling law in New Jersey was passed in 1987 by the legislature and approved unanimously. Can you imagine that today? It wasn't without some several years of fighting during the administration of Governor Kane, who signed into law in Earth Day of '87. It made recycling mandatory throughout the state. It gave the responsibility to counties to develop a countywide plan, and it required municipalities to implement a mandatory recycling ordinance at the local level. In Atlantic County, foresight of your predecessors, it was decided that there would not be 23 separate recycling collection programs. We would do a shared service from the very get-go. So it was the recommendation of the Solid Waste Advisory Council, the Mayor's Association at the time, the county executive, and the Board of Freeholders, was that we would not have 23 separate recycling programs. We'd have one set for the whole county, and it would be assigned to the County Utilities Authority to set up the program. First, have a facility where materials would be processed, and then set up a collection program. And about October of 1988, the Utilities Authority embarked on the first door-to-door collection program in 3 municipalities: Margate, Hcit, and Mullica Township. So a little bit of every part of the county was done. And over the next 10 months, all the municipalities were brought in, and we provided recycling collection services under the dual stream system. The first buckets were these buckets. You can imagine, so it started in 1988 with these buckets from Whitehall Labs. This is actually a recycling story. These buckets contain 25,000 Advil tablets shipped from Britain to Whitehall and Hamilton, and then boxed and packaged and sold in the United States as Advil. And I was visiting with County Executive Squires at the time, the Whitehall Labs, and we said, what are you going to do with all those? They had a whole warehouse full of these. And they said, well, we throw them away. So it was the executive's idea that these be distributed. So these were sufficient in the beginning, in 1988. Quickly, within a couple years, it was pretty clear that that wasn't going to work. And then the ACUA proposed in 1982 these buckets be distributed to every home in the county. That actually, some of you might remember, was very controversial. My good friend and colleague and leader, County Executive Squires, didn't like that idea. So we had a protracted series of elections in each town to vote whether they wanted buckets or not. And all but 3 towns voted we want buckets. So they were distributed in those 3 towns. The 3 towns that didn't want them, God knows why. I can't remember why. Ventnor, Northfield, and Egg Harbor Town. Who knows? But within a short period of time, those towns wanted them also. But they were distributed. The program began to grow. It was still dual stream. You could get 1 free bucket every year. So if you go to some homes today, you'll see that people have like 8 of them filled with recycling, and they're picked up. What does that do? It makes it obviously easier to recycle. But as the program has grown, and now we're in single stream, so we switched in 2006 to single stream, which is much more efficient in collection. 3 times as, instead of those old beaver trucks, we call them, they only hold about a quarter to a third of the material that you can carry in a trash truck. So the cost of recycling for municipalities in Atlantic County is the collection. That's the most expensive part of the system. We first had the warehouse on Delilah Road, the old Harrison warehouse, beer warehouse, and then built a new recycling center in 1992. The program has grown, and now we have these available for purchase, but also a number of municipalities, Corbin City, Buena Vista, Hamilton, Brigantine, and now Ventnor have all purchased these carts for all of their residents, and Ventnor will be distributing them in the next few months. So the program has grown. Recycling material taken out of the trash stream is taking away a cost of disposal. The cost of disposal at the landfill in Atlantic County or the transfer station is $65 a ton. So every ton it's recycled, not in the trash, the town and the municipality or the business is saving on the disposal costs. It's a cost avoidance. Now, the ups and downs of the recycling commodities market is constant. It's changed over those since 1988, dramatically going up and down, and that's part of the risk of the business. We charge towns for collection. We do not charge for taking it for it to be delivered to the recycling center. That is entirely different than other places in New Jersey. So you may have heard from your colleagues around the state about the current circumstances in the world commodities recycling market, that the towns have had to pay now either more or pay it all, and our towns do not. So there has been no, quote, tip fee, processing fee since 1988 for our municipalities at the ACUA Recycling Center. There have been lots of changes, and there's been ups and downs in the market, but we have never charged for that. When money is made, and it has varied from $1 million a year down to $200,000 to $150,000 a year in sale of material, that money goes back into the program, buying trucks, buying equipment, maintaining the recycling center, and so forth. It doesn't, and we use that for those purposes. Okay, up to the current set of circumstances. We have only added materials to the recycling stream over the last, since 1988. For the first time, we are taking some away. Why? Last year, at the beginning of last year, 2018, China implemented a what they call the Green Shield. Green Sword has a couple different names, but basically they have cut off accepting the world's recycling commodities for paper and plastic. Going from taking, previous to that, over the last 20 years, about 60% of the plastic and paper or fiber has gone to China. They cut it off because they do not want to process any more of the world's recycling for being made into new products. They want to develop their own system for their own waste, and they are saying to the rest of the world, no. Now, it's not a democracy there. When the government says no, it's no. What that has done is turned the world of recycling that's developed over the last 25 years internationally upside down. All of a sudden, when 60% of a product or a commodity can't go somewhere, the price goes down, the quality control goes up, and the places to market it are limited. So we've exported the processing, the further processing of recycling in North America and in Northern Europe to China over the last few years. Now, other countries initially were receiving some, but not enough. And the real long-term answer is the processing of recycling beyond the initial processing that happens in our recycling center here has to be done in North America. It has to be developed here. Oddly enough, some of those entrepreneurs or financial, those companies in China that were processing it there are opening up mills in the United States. But we need more processing capabilities in the United States. All right, let's bring that to today in Atlantic County. We are telling everybody that we are no longer taking plastics 3 through 7. Okay, the most affected thing that people will remember on that is yogurt containers. I love it. All right. At the same time, we are saying, we're reiterating what never was acceptable. Okay, the standards of the recycling markets now are that we cannot have contamination rates over 10%. So we are now requiring and educating the public. This is one of those opportunities. Why we're changing it. We're changing it because we need to reduce the amount of contamination that exists in these cans and these carts that are put out for recycling day. We had a meeting this morning with the recycling coordinators. It's the second or third time we've met with them from each municipality, reiterating that it's important where it's a partnership between the municipalities and us. And it's important to be working together to do this and to explain. So one of, let me just go through a couple of other things. So 3 through 7s were never a tremendous amount of the material. It might be about 2% of the recycling stream, but it's something if you had a yogurt container and the other things affected, you're upset about it. I get it. But there's no point in putting it in because it's going to be taken out and it'll be trash, or it will contaminate the loads and the loads will have less value also. So there's no point in wishful recycling. Well, I still think this should be recycled. There's no market for it. There's no point in collecting. So we also are asking people not to put shredded paper in. Why? Shredded paper just falls through the machinery and becomes trash anyway. Shredded material should be done separate, and there's any number of ways to do that otherwise. Pizza boxes was one of those things that's highly contaminated. If you had a pizza box and it never had a pizza in it, it's fine. It's just perfect. Except, in most of my presentations, I bring a pizza box along to open it up and show people what I'm talking about. The grease and the food and the cheese and the pepperoni are contaminants, not only to the paper, they also attract rats and so forth at the recycling center. So they're another issue is food contamination. Aerosol cans are a safety issue. We have accepted aerosol cans since 1988, but we are at this point we're making a change. Don't put aerosol cans in. No caps. Why no caps? Caps keep liquid in. Liquid is a contaminant when it spills out. That's also attracted to plastic bags. We never accepted plastic bags. You would go to our recycling center and be surprised, and some of the freeholders came when the center was reopened under its new configuration a few years ago. Plastic bags come all the time. Why are plastic bags bad? This doesn't have anything to do with the plastic contamination in the environment and the waterways and so forth. This has to do with it gums up the machines. So no recycling program accepts plastic bags through its collection program from residents and from commercial establishments. You can recycle plastic bags. Take it to the food store, the ShopRite, and the Acme. They recycle it. It's clean, it's baled, it's taken somewhere, made into Trex lumber or something like that. But through a residential collection program, recycling bags or plastic bags are a no-no and always have been. So we're encouraging everybody to stop doing that. Now, you can use plastic bags other ways. So at our house we use them for garbage, we use them for kitty litter, and now we have a grandchild and we use it for poopy diapers. We go in the trash.
Thanks, Rick.
This is the reality of the business. So, all in all, we're embarking, have been, and more intensely over the next couple months. We will be distributing these flyers in the newspapers. There will be ads in take-home in all the papers, both the dailies and the weeklies throughout the county, including the Vineland papers, the Hamilton papers, the Currents, and all the other weekly papers. Folks will get that information. We're making these changes reluctantly, particularly the items that we're no longer accepting. And one last challenge is 50% of the trash in Atlantic County doesn't come from homes. 50% of it comes from businesses and stores and casinos and schools and so forth. I will tell you that's where we're failing. There's plenty of cardboard, cans and bottles, traditional stuff that we want that is generated and is not being recycled today. We went through this again today with the recycling coordinators. Is the towns are going to have to beef up their enforcement, friendly enforcement with the commercial sector. So all of us have been to some facility, office building, factory, you name it, store. There is no recycling containers there. So just think of Wawas. Wawas were initially opposed to having recycling cans in front of their stores. After a concerted effort about 10 years ago by recycling coordinators around the state and the DEP, they designed and put into place those unique recycling containers outside of every one of their stores in New Jersey. And I think they do it actually everywhere now. But if you go to 7-Eleven or you go to Cumberland Farms, they're not there. If you go to Acme or Shop right around here, they also have recycling cans there. But go into a doctor's office, go into the hospital, go into a casino, and ask if they have a recycling program, and if they're actually doing recycling. They are required by every ordinance in this county to have recycling. We pick up, on behalf of the municipalities and all the towns we serve, all of the commercial establishments also, as a part of the municipal contract. They will get a commercial cart, just blue, no green lid, supplied to them. If they're large, like a liquor store or someplace that has a lot of cardboard, we give them a dumpster with the recycling, and they get either weekly, in some cases they'll get bi-week or twice a week service for that. There's really no excuse for it, and it's required. Thanks.
Is there an ordinance requiring businesses that do not want to recycle to not have their private contractor like Waste Management take their cardboard away? Is there an ordinance that prohibits them from using that? So I know businesses in my neighborhood that do not want to recycle. I've asked them for years. They have either Earth Tech or Waste Management, and they just dump all their card. They say, I'm paying for it, I don't want to recycle.
That's against the law in that town, Atlantic City specifically, but all the towns. We're Republic. It's required of the, you know,
Yeah, who polices that?
it's the responsibility of the local recycling coordinator of the municipality. And that's who we met with today. By and large, there is very little, if any, enforcement, and we were challenging them to do that. Now, their pushback, and we get it, and many of you are municipal elected officials, you know this, is we're reluctant to lean on it. You can do this in a way that isn't, you know, giving them a fine. It's embarrassing them into understanding the economics and why they have to do it.
Do they get the containers from the ACUA for recycling for free?
They get the external containers from the ACUA for
How
free,
about dumpsters?
and dumpsters if needed,
For free?
for free.
Pickup is free?
Pickup is free in
Oh,
the
there's
towns
some.
where, I just want to correct, in the towns that we serve. We do not serve Atlantic City any longer, you know. So
I know. They wanted to pay an extra $1 million, I know.
Has there been any consideration to send something out in tax bills?
Some municipalities do send this information out in tax bills, and we're encouraging them to do that as they do.
Okay.
And also some have municipal other kinds of municipal mailings.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions or concerns on the freeholders? Did you have something? Okay.
No, other than Rick, he held up the meeting a long time.
It's important information.
longer than the guy from the prosecutor?
Yeah. This is real good information.
Sorry.
I noticed that in Atlantic City, Madam Chair, I mean, I noticed
Sure.
in Atlantic City, they had new big recycling dumpsters. I don't know if they're purchasing them through Gold Medal, or I don't know if the city's involved in any kind of buying
I'm
program.
assuming it's provided by the hauler, Gold Medal.
Okay, we have a
But
question
those things
from.
right there, they fill up in 2 minutes. It's a big difference where you came from.
These are only good for one basketball
One
game.
shard of
Yeah.
paper.
Or 2,500 pills.
We have a question from the audience.
Yeah, Rick, hi Rick.
I agree.
There was some discussion regarding the number ones and number twos, that if the necks, I forget how that was being said, if the neck was narrower than the base,
Yes.
those are good, but if it's straight, that's not so good, or,
That's right. They're not so good.
so does that mean not so good as in do not put them in at all, or they need to have a certain set of letters on
Not to
them?
do that. They're going to be more acceptable than 3 through 7.
Right.
All right. So we're trying to reduce the amount of contamination as much as possible. So bales get graded on contamination levels. And the machinery there is pretty amazing, and the people that work at the recycling center, but they're not perfect.
So it's not a question of if it has the particular letters
No.
and it's straight, it's okay. If it's straight like that, then it's just not okay.
Right.
Okay, and then Also with various drink bottles, you undo the cap, and often there's this other ring, which obviously is not a 1 or a 2 plastic. But I'm not going to snip that. I'm AR about
we're
this,
not.
but I'm not snipping it off.
We're not asking you.
Okay.
That's going to make it through the process.
Okay.
The caps really are just, they're going to
Yeah.
come off
Yeah.
in the processing, and they're going to fall through literally through the
Right.
cracks. So that little ring is not likely to fall off.
And Rick, the reason you're asking to rinse everything and make sure it's clean and dry is because like ketchup left in a ketchup bottle is contamination.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter, mayonnaise, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. On that line, is there any comparison between, okay, here's how much water we're using to rinse out the peanut butter jar versus at that point throwing that away? Because again, we're using a lot of water to rinse out the peanut butter jar.
There have been evaluations of that, but I will tell you that in general,
We're still coming out on the good side.
potable water in New Jersey is pretty darn cheap compared to other places. And if you have a well,
So if we're not in Arizona, we're okay.
you're in
All right.
Arizona.
Freeholder Risley has the last question.
Just one quick question.
Yes.
Wet cardboard, is that a problem?
Yes.
Well, we would prefer it not to be
I
wet.
know, but you don't take it if it's wet?
So that's one reason why for commercial, in particular, we like the carts. There are lids that you can purchase for these also. But,
soap.
by and large, yes. Any, you know,
Don't rinse off your cardboard, John. All right.
Thank you.
Hearing no other questions, we'll close out that presentation. Thank you, Rick. Appreciate
welcome.
it. I don't know if
Now,
you're
if
going to
you
wheel.
leaving these buckets
Yeah, are
here
you going to
samples?
wheel out or what?
this has a computer chip
Yeah,
in it.
if
And
you
we'll
purchase it, they drop it right off
You
for
won't
your
go to jail.
yard.
Yes. So I'll leave
I
it here
did
as an
that.
advertisement. They cost $75
Oh,
for
they went
delivery
up.
to your home. And then there's a chip in it that identifies your address and location. In case somebody steals it
It's a
and
lot
we find it
easier.
somewhere else, we can send it back.
So make sure that one's registered for here.
Yeah.
Comes back.
It's a lot
We
easier
might
to
make
drag
this
out.
available to the county government here in registry.
All right. Thank you, Rick.
This is my own personal.
Nobody's stealing it from you.
I'm taking this with me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna move on to some bond ordinances now. Bond ordinance number 1.
Bond ordinance amending and supplementing bond ordinance number 6, 2010, which provides for an appropriation of $5 million for improvement of the Atlantic Cape Community College by the construction of an addition to the Charles D. Worthington Atlantic City campus, heretofore finally adopted by the Board of Chosen Freeholders of the County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey on December 7, 2010, to amend the description set forth therein, final reading.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that bond ordinance? Okay, is the public hearing on that bond ordinance? Any members of the public? Are
No,
you-
no, no.
Oh, you're not, okay. All right.
You not? No. Move it,
Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Horsey,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. Bond ordinance number 2?
Bond ordinance providing for various 2019 capital improvements by and in the County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, appropriating $11,867,000, therefore and authorizing the issuance of $11,273,000 bonds or notes to finance part of the cost thereof, final reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on bond ordinance number 2? There's a public hearing on number 2. Any members of the public? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Horsey,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern, Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. Capital ordinance number 1.
Capital ordinance providing for information technology and general capital improvements to various county-owned facilities in and for the County of Atlantic, State of New Jersey, and appropriating $3,323,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund to pay for the cost thereof, final reading.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on capital ordinance? It's a public hearing. Any members of the public? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. Next we'll move into ordinance number 3.
An ordinance amending provisions of Chapter 97 of the Atlantic County Code entitled Parks to prohibit the release of helium-filled balloons within any portion of the Atlantic County Park System. First reading.
Move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to follow up to the resolution that we did, memorializing that you can't release helium-filled balloons. Any comments from the freeholders? Yes.
Just about process, did this go to the county code committee?
It did. We reviewed it and we were satisfied with it. A couple things we talked about. We made sure, similar to the way we did the plastic bag ordinance, that we put a year in there for kind of warnings to the public. Talked about signage. I think the couple things that are excluded from it are things like meteorological balloons, hot air balloons that happen to land in the park and need to go back up, and balloons that are indoors, being kind of free from being tied down. That was basically it. It doesn't prevent people from having balloons like at their party. They just can't release them in the park.
They can have them at their party in the park?
Yeah. So that was all the discussion at the code committee, and I forget who else was there, if I missed anything. Okay. Any other?
Who was there? Who was there?
I don't remember. It was like last week, I think.
Well, you don't know on the freeholder board who was on the code committee?
I've been so many meetings, Ernest, no, I don't
I don't
remember.
know who was there. Who was that? Who was that meeting?
Jerry, you were on, Jim was on.
Yeah, right.
No, freeholder.
Well, they're
What
part
else
of the
you
code
on? Yes,
committee.
Mr. Bertino.
Yes, right.
Oh, neither one of y'all were there? Okay. So it was the committee you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just asking, because when we made the comments, you didn't know. I
I
don't know.
don't know.
Well, I wasn't there, so.
Yeah, I was doing school time.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right. This will go to a public hearing at our next meeting, so we'll just have a roll call vote.
Bertino.
Yeah,
Excuse
you
me.
did that.
Of course, Ron.
Bennett.
Of course, Ron.
You say yes. Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. All right, resolutions 172.
Requesting permission for the dedication by rider for an outside jail medical reserve fund as required by NJSA 48:4-62.2.
Move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any freeholder comments on that one? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes, 173.
Grant application and acceptance of funding from the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety for the Highway Traffic Safety Program in the amount of $5,295.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on this grant? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes, 174.
Grant application and acceptance of funding from the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History through the Revisiting the Founding Era program, amount not to exceed $1,000.
Move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that grant application? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes, 175.
Grant application to the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety for the alcohol impaired driving, driving while intoxicated, traffic enforcement and education program, amount not to exceed $66,000.
Move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that one? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Coursey.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. Take a motion to combine and adopt all the chapter 159s, 176 through 182.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on any of the 159s? Any comments from the public? Okay, roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Bertino. Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
That's all right. We
Yes.
forgive
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
I can get them on the phone.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
you. Yes. 183.
Professional services contract with Atlantic Care Physician Group, PA, for the provision of post-offer pre-employment physicals and associated diagnostic testing to prospective employees for designated positions, amount not to exceed $30,718.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any freeholder comments? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 184.
Change order number 1, contract with CFG Health Systems Limited Liability Corporation for the provision of health care provider at the Atlantic County Justice Facility. Net increase $77,316.21.
Moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Freeholder for Mika.
Joey, what's the increase for?
When we started this program with John Brooks, we were going roughly 15 to 20 clients a day, and we were utilizing our, what we call a utilization review nurse. There are 2 people in that do utilization review. It means everybody goes out of our facility, their cases are reviewed by this nurse. So she was spending roughly 2 hours a day. Now we're up to 50 to 80 people a day
Yeah.
in the Medicaid. It's called MAT, M-A-T. It's a methadone program. We're up to roughly between, like I said, 50 to 80 people a day. She's spending more like 6 hours. The utilization review is, we can't afford not to have somebody watching that. So what we did with CFG is ask them if they would be willing to put a nurse into this program. So we're reimbursing them to put a nurse in there. And they've hired someone specifically for the MAT program.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 185.
Madam Chair, before we go any further,
Sure, sure.
I don't want to get too far. Jerry, if I may, Madam Chair.
Sure, yeah.
Jerry, what is that resolution I'm looking for regarding Pleasantville?
The one you're looking for is the $21,000.
That's good.
It's,
It's lumped in or
Yeah.
something?
I don't think so. I mean,
It's
I'm
April
looking-
2nd.
What was it?
It's
April
gonna be on the April
2nd.
2nd agenda.
So it's not on this meeting? Because that's what you
No, the
said.
21,000, no.
Okay.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, 185.
Renewal shared services agreement with the Township of Galloway for snow removal, street sweeping, and lawn maintenance at the Galloway Township branch of the Atlantic County Library System, amount not to exceed $10,950.
Moved.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 186.
Amendment to the 2017-2018 agreement with Hcit Budget Systems for the provision of maintenance of the integrated library computer system extending the termination date. Net increase $35,890.64.
Moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that one? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 187.
Amendment to the 2018-2019 agreement with Hcit Budget Systems for the provision of maintenance of the integrated library computer system to extend the termination date and adding components. Net increase $29,152.49.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on this? Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 188.
Reappointment of Michelle R. Wilson to the Atlantic County Library Advisory Commission for a term to expire on January 1, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on Ms. Wilson? Is Ms. Wilson here? Okay. Any comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett.
Yes.
Corsi.
Yes.
Days.
Yes.
Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Formica.
Yes.
Kern.
Yes.
Risley.
Yes.
And Gatto.
Yes. 189.
Authorizing consent for a roadway solicitation event by Team GPS Police Unity Tour, Inc. at the intersection of Jimmy Leach Road, County Route 633, and Pitney Road, County Route 634, in Galloway Township on Saturday, April 13, 2019, from 8 p.m. to 4 p.m.
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I think it's supposed to be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., right? I thought I heard you say p.m.
I may have.
Okay.
It is 8
Any
a.m.
freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Corsi,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. 190.
Authorizing consent for a roadway solicitation event by Brigantine PBA Local 204 at the intersection of County Route 638 and Harbor Beach Boulevard in the city of Brigantine on Saturday, April 13th, 2019, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments on that one? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Corsi,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. 191.
Amending Resolution 3 of 2019, changing the location of the regular meeting of April 30th, 2019 to the city of Pleasantville, council chambers, and informing the newspapers.
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Corsi,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. 192.
Amending Resolution Number 3 of 2019, changing the location of the regular meeting of August 27, 2019 to the City of Northfield Municipal Building and informing the newspapers.
Moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any freeholder comments? Comments from the public? Roll call vote.
Bennett,
Yes.
Corsi,
Yes.
Days,
Yes.
Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Formica,
Yes.
Kern,
Yes.
Risley,
Yes.
and Gatto.
Yes. Okay, that concludes our written agenda. Move on to reports of special committees of the board. Anybody have anything to report? Okay. Oh, Freeholder Risley?
Yeah, other special committees, I guess we'll talk a little bit about the meeting we attended this morning.
Sure.
Board of School Estimates. And we talked about the budget for ACIT and the budget for the Special Services School District. We'll take them one at a time. And please chime in things I've missed. I'm just going to touch on a couple of points. The ACIT budget, we talked about that. The cost, additional cost to our county is approximately up 1% from the previous year. The enrollment continues to grow. They receive 1,000 applications a year and take in 450. So the demand is there. The other thing we talked about as well is the misconception that's out there, and I know it's a misconception because I hear many people coming up to me and talking to me about this topic, that somehow ACIT is closing out the trades. And that is far from the truth. There are programs out there to accommodate 16 different trades. So we have to somehow get the word out, Jerry. Maybe we can put something on our county website. I was thinking that on the county website to let people know that Atlantic County Institute of Technology does have 16 different trades, carpentry, electricity, cosmetology, but there's a number of different trades. That's auto collision, many different trades that are available out there. I think because of the success of the school and the fact that so many students have gone there for computer studies and media and other things, that there's an identity situation there. So I get that comment quite often, believe it or not, from people around the county thinking, well, the ACIT just doesn't offer these programs. In fact, they do. So we reviewed the ACIT budget. We also reviewed the Special Services school budget. In their case, enrollment's been declining for the last 4 years. 80% of the budget is tuition-based, and the reason, no doubt, for that decline is school districts are keeping as many special needs students into their own home school district, because there's a huge cost. The cost is ballpark $50,000 a year. So you start doing the math, and the number of students that are coming out of a particular district at $50,000 a year, it doesn't take long to add up to real money. So maybe you want to comment on anything I've missed in that?
Just that we made a recommendation that they do try to market VOTEC as VOTEC. They changed the name to ACIT, and everybody thinks it's just a college prep STEM school, which is doing well in that. But there's a lot of needs in the community that I think parents and children would like to know that there is blue-collar training there and technical training there that would be more traditional. The other thing that was surprising was on the special services school, as Freeholder Risley just said, the tuition is $49,000 a year because literally it's 1-to-1. When you add up all the staff, the teachers, the aides, and transportation, there's 315 students to go there. There's 350 staff. So $49,000 is not a ridiculous amount. If anybody would like to go out and see what they do there, it's just this short of amazing. Because there are these people just, you know, just aren't autistic or just they just don't have a little deformity. Some of them are in very technical wheelchairs that barely can get around. But what was disturbing was that a district will say they're going to commit 12 students, and then come time of enrollment, they make the appropriation for the transportation, the staff, the aides for that student, and then instead of 12, they send 6. Well, that is going to cost $300,000 to our budget. So there should be a way for their commitment to have a little bit of a deposit or a little bit of a reserve. That suggestion was made, but under certain titles of the law in the state of New Jersey, that doesn't exist right now. So they're going to look into that. But I think John did a good job explaining what happened there.
Yeah, the other thing I would just make mention, we talked about the increase in state aid to ACIT and how that did decrease the tuition to the sending districts. So we did talk about how that, because they look back 2 years, will help the sending districts because we know it's a challenge for them. And then we also talked about some of the capital improvements that they're working on that they've basically been making without county dollar assistance, which was really great to hear. Thought it was a really good meeting and a lot of good discussion. And I think Freeholder Risley's point around the kind of identity crisis and the need to do a little bit of PR on VOTEC, which is still there, is really needed. So if we can help get that word out, I think we should.
You know, we called Meadowview Nursing Home for some 30-something years, and then it's now Meadowview Nursing Home and Rehabilitation Facility. So it may not be a bad idea to include in the name of ACIT and VOTEC. It wouldn't hurt for people to get that identity with the name.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to say is that the cost from the districts to send a student to ACIT is $6,100 a year, whereas in most of the municipalities, it's $18,000 to $25,000 a year is what taxpayers pay for a high school student. And by the way, a kindergarten student in some places. So it's a pretty good deal, although we're very sensitive to the sending districts losing their enrollment, and we're going to try to address that as we go along.
And then the other thing we also talked about was the need to really try to connect the ACIT students coming out of the various academies, particularly the culinary world, with ACCC and the programs that we have available there, and creating that pipeline, which for some reason isn't existing right now. So we need to do a better job of that, and we talked about that as well. All right, anything else for you, Liz?
I have a question.
Yes, Freeholder Corsi.
Last year, Chairwoman talked about the enrollment, lack of enrollment in the grade A school district because a lot of them are going to ACIT. Sure that it's still happening. I'm just curious to find out, how do you put a Band-Aid, so to speak, Because if people want to send their kids to ACIT, you can't stop them from going out of the school district. I know that's a big problem. But at no point, I think we ought to be trying to encourage people to not to go, because ACIT does provide good services, as we all talked about, the engineering program, etc. It is a good school, and not only just the greater ACAR, but the school district, every district is feeling the crunch. But there's a lot of success stories that come out of ACIT. I would agree that we need to encourage folks to understand it's still a technical school also. Because I look at Cumberland County, for example. Cumberland County is getting ready to merge with Rowan. It's all of that. You now lose what they call Cumberland County College / Votech. That's all coming under the umbrella of Rowan University, which is interesting to me. And there's some resistance, but I think it's going to happen. Anyway, I don't know if any of you ever had the opportunity to tour Cumberland County College / Votech. State of the art. How long has it been on, John? 3 years, 4 years max? State of the art, but it's a heck of a facility. But again, I get what you're saying. I just don't know how we can put a Band-Aid or stop folks from taking their kids out of public school and send them over to ACIT.
Yeah.
I know it's a lift.
It is.
It's a lift. So.
The other thing that we discussed, which I thought was really interesting, is we want to try to offer more things like more welding classes, more automotive classes, the aviation piece that we're putting together. But it is really a struggle to find teachers for those programs. And coding was another one I was very surprised. It's hard to find teachers who will leave,
Private industry.
private industry,
And
higher
work
paying
for
jobs.
$70,000 here.
Right, to come teach here. So that was interesting too.
But I think what I found out the other day was shocking. That'll tell you how long I've been out of the school system. When I was in school, we had home ec and we had shop. And I look at MLK School in Atlantic City, I look at Uptown School Complex. They took out shop, they took out home ec. I don't even think they even offered it in the high school anymore. We've turned the page. I don't know if it's good or bad, but that was a good trade for those kids that started the lower level and worked their way up to it. But times has changed, and it's just I was just shocked to see that they were no longer in school.
Yeah, I think you're going to start seeing them come back, honestly, because people are lacking those skills so much that it's creating such a gap in society. Anyway, all right. Any other updates from special
The other
reports?
thing I would want to mention
Yes.
is I did attend the South Jersey Transportation Planning SJTPO meeting yesterday on behalf of the county. That was a 2.5-hour meeting, and we had the federal people in it reviewing our particular MPO here in South Jersey, and we did very well. They were very impressed with our particular group, which is, again, a 4-county organization. And you talk about an organization with acronyms. They got more acronyms than you can ever imagine. And there's many, many, many different federal programs, and it gets very complicated very quickly as to what monies can be used for what project. And it's always an eye-opener when I attend these meetings because there's a lot to them. And John Peterson always represents the county at these meetings. Some of the talk is very technical in regards to roads and inventory of bridges and inventory of guardrails and striping and all kinds of stats within the 4 counties. So it's quite an interesting topic, dry at times, but quite interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any other? Yes, Vice Chairwoman.
As you know, I attended the Atlantic County Mayor's Association meeting on Friday.
Yes, I
And one of their main topics is they are continuing the fight for the 911 system and emergency trust fund. So they brought that up and asked how much we were doing. I told them we've done resolutions. They have a resolution going now to urging Governor Phil Murphy and the New Jersey state legislation to properly allocate the 911 system and emergency trust fund account, as it was set up to go back to municipalities, but so far it has not stayed in the state.
Okay, thank you. Any other updates of special committees? Okay, seeing none. Any unfinished business? Yes, Freeholder Fitzpatrick.
I want to acknowledge Senate Bill S-121, sponsored by Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg, was signed by Governor Murphy on March 18th. This law makes non-disclosure agreements in employment contracts and settlement agreements in cases of discrimination, retaliation, or harassment, including sexual assault and sexual harassment, unenforceable against employees. The law prohibits provisions in employment contracts that waive the rights of victims and make employment contracts which require employees to conceal details relating to these types of claims unenforceable. Since this is now state law and applies to the public as well as private entities, I withdraw the ordinance that I proposed in August of 2018 that has been sitting in code committee since that time. I don't know if I can make a motion to do that, or it just goes away. How do we do that?
What do you
remember what the last status was it tabled or withdrawn?
I have not yet withdrawn it. It's just
Stable?
I believe so, yes.
I don't think it was formal.
I don't
Was
think it was formally
tabled,
brought to the
or was
table.
it just sent to committee?
Just sent to committee.
Yeah, so I think it's just,
So that's it.
just goes away.
Okay, so now it's state law. We didn't have to do anything.
So our state,
Which is exactly what we suggested.
Well, we could have led. We didn't have to wait. We could have led.
so does that mean that state government and,
Public and private.
but state legislators?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they heard us.
All right.
And I have one more.
Oh, okay, sure.
So when we first started last year, when I first came, right away, I noticed that I got a notice in the mail of my direct deposit, and I thought that that was odd. I wondered why I got a piece of mail telling me it wasn't a check or anything. And we talked about the cost of that, and it was going to be resolved with a new system that was coming on board. And I got an email a couple of weeks ago telling me that there weren't going to be mailed notices of direct deposit any longer, but I'm still getting them. And at 1,700 people and 26 pays at 50 cents a pay, it's $22,000. So is that going to stop, or what are we doing about that?
Well, actually, we don't mail every check. Only employees that don't come to pick up their check get them mailed.
So I can request not to get it?
Absolutely. I'm not sure who's mailing your check.
Okay, because it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry. We mail your check.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when it comes here, we automatically mail all the, I'm sorry, can I speak?
Absolutely.
We automatically mail your check. It just clicked that we were talking about your check.
Yeah, so, but I'm talking about all direct deposit notices.
The email that went out said that we're working towards the goal of not printing, which means we wouldn't have to either send or mail out the checks, and we are working at that. The first step that I would like to do is move forward to mandatory direct deposit. We can do that by resolution. I have talked to the chairwoman about that briefly, because we also talked about it in Budget and Finance Committee, about moving forward with that. The problem, it's not a problem, we're seeking a solution, is that every employee has to have a way to access their information if we're not actually providing them a copy of it. So there are some localities that don't have access, like some employees don't have computers, or they don't have, so they don't have individual computers. So we have to work with the departments to set up a computer that they can access to get the information if they want it. So those are some of the intricacies that we're trying to work out before we move forward with that. But that was my first step, was going to be mandatory direct deposit. And then the second step, obviously, once we have access to all of our employees, to completely stop printing pay stubs. So yes, that's a goal that I like to meet in 2019.
Great, thank you.
And I know you kind of look like, yeah, why aren't we doing mandatory direct deposit? I could not believe when I was in Hamilton, when we went mandatory, the resistance, because a ton of people want their check, they want to go cash it. Some might not even put it in a bank account or have a bank account to put it in. So these were like all things that really kind of blew my mind, because I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to go to the bank.
I understand that, and
Yeah.
I instituted that myself where I work, and people were shocked, but they got over it.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's not insurmountable.
They did it in Hamilton, right?
Yes.
Did they do it? So,
Yes, we did it.
so.
It took time though, so I think Bonnie's approach is correct,
To
slow and
your
steady.
point
when that
is,
is.
we have had resistance from some of our employees not to have mandatory direct deposit. That won't stop us from moving forward. But what there is a process that we can use a bank. It's called a pay card. And if an employee does not want a bank account for whatever reason, they decide they don't want a bank account, their money will go on this pay card, regardless of, whether they want to participate in direct deposit or not. That will be their option. And then in 2019, the prosecutor's office decided that they no longer wanted to send an employee to our office to pick up their paychecks. So they actually implemented, we're not printing or delivering any paychecks to a majority of the employees in the prosecutor's office. I think they had like 2 or 3 holdouts, and they had actually encouraged their employees to do direct deposit. So I think we have 2 or 3 holdouts that were going to go to direct deposit, that we are currently mailing their check, but until we get them to go there or we do the mandatory direct deposit, but they did implement that this year starting in 2019.
Well, I'm glad to hear that that's your goal for this year. Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else? No? Okay. Any other unfinished business? Okay, any new business? Okay, seeing none. Any written communications or petitions? Okay, seeing none, we will go to public comments. Any members of the public wish to speak? Seeing your hand. Go ahead, Creed.
Craig, you know you don't know anything about it.
I got you on timer. Creed Pogue, 169 Carmel Avenue, Estill Manor. Perhaps as a follow-up to Freeholder Fitzpatrick closing out the NDA ordinance with the passage of the Weinberg bill. It might be a healthy gesture to, because I'm hoping there's really not that many, but to say that for those who have signed NDAs from say 2010 through now, of this decade, that they would get some sort of communication, whether it's email or a letter, but something that then could say that with the passage of the bill, your NDA is no longer active, we're not holding you to it, and then just let that go, because it's one of those things of, with all the other news that has been going on in the last week or so, from the ridiculous to the sublime, however you want to look at it, that's not something that a lot of people are going to hear. And just as far as the justice side of things, just to say, this is a step that's been taken, and that's been done, and I'm sure from county counsel's office, or however that would be done, it would not be a major thing. Again, I'm assuming as an inherent assumption. There's not a bunch of these, so however many there are, that will be communicated, and just to kind of close that out, to also kind of meet that initial concern for what has happened. And 2010 seems like a reasonable arbitrary point, just that it's this decade, rather than try to go back, some further point.
Let me just ask, thank you, Creed. Jerry or county council. It was my understanding in our discussion that if there was a non-disclosure in any agreements, that they were operable anyway and really accessible anyway.
That's correct.
Okay.
Cool.
So they really weren't enforceable for us previously. Yeah.
But no one, again, I'm sorry,
Okay, I'm just clarifying
no,
my understanding.
Right, and I understood that. However, if the person signed the NDA, and again, we have no idea how many, I'm not asking for that, they did it presumably knowing that, at least they thought, that they were signing something that was enforceable, and that again, with all due respect to county counsel's office and county administration, because this goes back 2010, we go back for a while. Again, everyone would have figured to some extent there's a reason you would ask to have had signed it, that you were figuring that at the time it was enforceable. Over as things have gone on with court decisions, but now with the legislation, we're now saying none of it is. And so just sending that communication to say, and if that is something that's helpful to them, finishing that healing process as they go from their perspective, again, not casting any, would be a way to kind of, again, close that out and then go from there. So it's a...
Appreciate the suggestion. Any other members of the public wish to speak? Okay, close out public comments. Go to the order.
Madam Chair, when's our next meeting?
Next meeting's next week.
Where?
Estelle Manor,
What time?
6 p.m. Thank you, Freeholder Meeting.
There are lights in the parking lot.
All right.
Madam Chair, before we leave,
Yes.
Creek, are you gonna meet us at the welcome, and escort us to the hall?
Well,
Or you won't be in Estelle Manor that day?
oh, I'll be there. I'll be there, but to answer your question, Freeholder, no, I'll be inside at City Hall, because once you get to the parking lot, it's a nice little walk to come in, and it's not that wooded, so you'll make it fine. It's getting you from the Mays Landing area to Estelle Manor.
I have no problem with
I know
that.
I know you don't. But I'm saying, once you get past the park, people start wondering where they're going. So it's...
All right. Any other items for good of the order? I just have a couple here. I want to congratulate the Women's Hall of Fame inductees. They were inducted last week sometime. I forget. I think it was Thursday. Very nice ceremony. Did a great job. We have extreme talent in this county of people who are giving back to the community, and I know we all know that, but just want to say it again loud and clear. Congrats to those ladies. Also want to congratulate our top 40 under 40 winners who were also honored on Friday night at the Borgata. AC Weekly, highlights 40 people under 40 who are also doing really amazing things in our community as well. So want to congratulate them. And that I am under 40. And yeah, thank you. We're up here. And had the opportunity to attend the Southern New Jersey Development Council breakfast meeting on Friday morning. Gave them a welcome to Atlantic County, and there were some very interesting panels, one of which was about cannabis business and how people can handle recreational marijuana should it ever come to New Jersey as either a hiring person or employer, employee, or actually a business wanting to kind of grow from that industry. It was a very interesting conversation. And then they also had another panel on tax incentives that are available to businesses who want to develop here in the southern New Jersey region. So really good conversation, a lot of participation from businesses across the region. So, a lot of interest in South Jersey, which is exciting. And that's it. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? Second. Motion and second. Any freeholder comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? See you next week in Estelle Manor.